Thank you everyone for coming. And welcome to our next AIM webinar. This is our sixth season of doing these. This is the eighth, number 68 in the upper left corner, as you can see there. We're just pleased to be continuing to do these. They're well received and lots of good information being shared. We have some other plans to do some other cool things in the near future as well. But we've been doing these for quite a long time, and this one I think is going to be a pretty good one. This is all about user profiles, what I call a convenient and powerful tool. And it's one of those things that the more I use them, the more I like them, and the more that I want to make sure everybody understands what they can do for them. I think people are using them a lot, from what I can tell, but not at a high level. And this is one of those things that I think the more you use them, the more you'll like them, and the more that it will really help you with your data analysis, not only in the race shop, in the trailer, but at the racetrack when things are really when you're under a lot of pressure to get some things done. And understanding how to build them and the concept of how to put them all together will save you a lot of time in analysis and allow you to do a lot of setup away from the track and making sure you have everything kind of set up, do some testing, build them, make them work for you. And then when you get to the track, maybe there's some tweaks that need to be made. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and just continue to make them better and better and saving them. So we're going to talk about that quite a bit today. So I appreciate you all coming. The first question, really always is what are user profiles, right? I look back and in the previous version of Race Studio 2, we had user profiles there as well. They weren't nearly as powerful as what we have now in Race Studio 3, but they were pretty cool. You could save 10 of them or so with some quick keyboard shortcuts, and then you could save additional ones that you could pull from the list and add. And they were very interesting and very powerful and really helped me use Race Studio analysis in ways that I didn't think I could, or with the speed and efficiency that I could. What I did here on this slide that we're looking at right now, and by the way, there's going to be some slides I made that are fairly complex, and if we just look at them, you're going to go, boy, that's a little bit crazy. But we're going to go into Race Studio 3 and then jump back into the presentation, and some of those screens will make a little bit more sense. There's a process that you need to understand at least the first few times, and it was hard for me to get a handle on it. And the 10 or 12 people that I've had phone calls about user profiles and trying to understand how to set their screen up the way they wanted, it was a struggle for them. So if it's a struggle for all of us, I wanted to make sure we covered it really well here. If you want this presentation, Matt has probably put a link into the chat box, or we'll soon to this presentation as a PDF form. You might want to grab it and download it real quickly just from there. And if not, we'll have the presentation in for those of you watching this later on YouTube, not here live. All of the links that Matt puts up in there that I mentioned, we will have them in the YouTube description box. So all of the same exact links to videos that we may talk about, or previous webinars, or this presentation will be available for you to grab there as a PDF. So we'll do that. This first screen, though, I was starting to think, what are user profiles? And again, I wanted to do one of those things where we talk a little bit about, exactly what are they, but maybe throw in another learning opportunity, which is the following is from the AIM Race Studio 3 help document that is loaded right on your PC and ready for you to access at the track, even if you don't have Wi-Fi or anything else. This data file, this HTML file, is downloaded when you update Race Studio 3, and it's right on your C drive as kind of a circled here on this version here that was on my computer. The manual, and it goes right in, and it's got searchable areas here on the left side where you can jump in there. There's a search bar here that you can jump into and find different things. And this is the information directly out of that manual. A user profile is a set of windows, showing your data. Properly, a profile is made of layouts. There are some default analysis layouts. We'll look at some of those here in just a moment. Available for use right away, your prompt use. And you can create custom layouts. We're going to talk about that. We're going to build some. We're going to copy some. We're going to do some manipulation of those files. and show you how that all works. And you can identify those layouts with tabs in the main analysis window. Properly, a layout is made of panels. And those panels, we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's not user profile specific, but when we set them up, I'm going to set a couple of them up, resize some things, change some settings, just to give you a little refresher on some of that pieces of it, and then show how we save them as user profiles. You can identify these panels with the windows inside any tab. So we're gonna again, I want to make sure that everybody understands that this document is in there. It is a very large document. It has information about virtually every part of Race Studio 3, not just analysis, but custom sensors and configurations, and there's just great information in here. It's a personal pet project of Emiliano to make sure this is up to date and growing all the time. There's links to videos. There's all sorts of information in here. Direct links, hyperlinks right in this document. If there's an area where he has found a video or something he thinks he wants to point at, you can click right on that and play it as well. So make sure you use that. And we're going to show you one more screen where we show you where you can get to this document even easier than just knowing that it's on your PC somewhere. So here is how you get to it, that same exact document in a couple of different spots related to what we're talking about today. I just took a corner slice screen capture of Race Studio 3, and after I opened the profile manager, which is where we're going to play in here quite a bit today, but in the upper right hand corner there is a green question mark. That green question mark is the direct path in. It's context sensitive, so if you select it out of the profile manager area, it's going to open up that document and open up that specific area of the documentation. If you open it up over here, it's going to this is up in the upper right hand corner of Race Studio 3, that's there all the time. That just opens it up to the beginning of the document. But you're going to find these little green question marks in many different areas inside the software. We may take a look at some of those again as we get into some live data. So again, boy, this is such a powerful tool for you. I will share with you, and I've shared it here before, while I know some of the areas of the software extremely well, there are other areas that I like to get a little bit of information for. When I get an email and somebody's asking a very deep question about something, this is my go-to, right? If I don't know it already off the top of my head, and I know a lot of it, but there is sometimes some that I go, I better look into this just a little bit more, and I jump into these help files and learn the last little bit I need to get up to speed, and then I answer the questions of the user. Sometimes I send them direct screen captures or links into this and have them look at those. So make sure you're using this. This is this local RS3 help documentation is very powerful, and it's growing all the time. And when I mention it to probably only 25% of the people I mention it to during help support calls and emails even know it's there. So very powerful tool. Hope you'll all take a look at it and use it. Why do we use user profiles? They're such a powerful yet easy tool that once you get going with them, and there are actually some are already built, certainly in all of our webinars we have done in the past, when we're able, if we're using some data and we're demoing and showing you some work inside of Race Studio 3, a lot of our co-hosts have made it okay for us to share the user profile and the data that we used at the time. So if you didn't grab them at the time, there are lots of opportunities for you to go back and review some of the other webinars we've already done, and those user profiles are built for you there. Another great place to start with user profiles is to grab one and then just modify it for your own use. We're going to show you a little bit of that today in live data, as well as building some new ones and copying and doing some other things. So we'll see how it kind of works out. But they're so strong that you should really consider using them. If you find yourself, this is one of the biggest things people ask me all the time, why should I use user profiles? And Roger, when should I use them? The answer I always have is, if you find yourself, you jump into Race Studio 3 analysis, and you have one little task you want to do, something came up, maybe you lost brake pressure or something, and you want to check something out. go in there, find it, do it, and then maybe that's the last time you'll do that specific task, and for quite some time. But if you always are going to go in and look at what your high RPM was, or your high water temperature, your low oil pressure, well, then you at that point, if you're going to do something in analysis and you're going to do it more than once, you're going to do it with some repetition, user profiles are absolutely the right way to do it, to be as fast and as efficient as possible. And so if you find yourself doing an analysis task more than once, save it as a user profile. And then from then on, that task will be very easy to find. If you name it with something that means something to you, you'll be able to jump right in and double click on it, and your data is already all cleaned up. Colors, widths, which panels you have up, where you have them placed into the windows, all of that is all taken care of for you because you've saved it. It's just going to present that data, and not just from that one session, not just from that one data logger. For any data you open will be opened up with that layout. And user profiles remember almost everything. Color width, whether you're in time or distance, whether you have certain windows open or closed, all of that is saved in there. So it's very powerful. Yeah, the other thing that I really use them for, and that I think Kyle has actually asked me this question once, and I shared this with him, and he probably is making sure he wants to that we're going to talk about it a little bit here. User profiles, what they can do for you is, I get a lot of comments from users that say, "Well, I go to the track and I'm a one-man band, and I have to change my tires, and I have to drink a little water, and I have to fuel up the car, I have to prep the car a little bit." Well, the user profile is really your answer to the easy button of analysis of your data, because when it's quiet, when it's Wednesday night and you've come home from work and you're sitting down, you're going to open up your laptop and look at a little bit of data in preparation for the coming weekend. What you can do is take some of the data from that track, some of the data from your car, and just start playing with different looks and feel in the software. And when you find something, maybe you're going to make one on vehicle health. So you're going to open up your oil pressure and your water temperature and all these different things, and you're going to scale them, and you're going to make different types of graphs or whatever, and you'll be saving those, right? Saving those as user profiles. Maybe one big user profile, maybe several small ones. And what you end up with is, once you get these all saved, the next time you go to the track, when the pressure is on, when you don't have a ton of time, now all of a sudden you download your data, and within, let's say, 5 minutes, you have walked through 2 or 3 important profiles to you, that you've done your vehicle health things, you've looked at you have a channel report, a couple of screens of things to look at as far as vehicle health. You can knock those out in probably 2 or 3 minutes. There is no needing to add a channel, scale it correctly, all these different things. All that's been done by you at sitting in your easy chair, drinking a beer, and with a laptop in your lap, and tinkering around. So there's these things here are very powerful that way for preparing for your day. As I mentioned here, user profiles enable you to prepare prior to arriving at the track, to adjust your user profiles as you find improvements, and be even more prepared for the next session. So you build them at home, you think you got everything you want, but when you get to the track, boy, I wish I had that channel in there. Well, add the channel and hit the save button, right? All you do is, and this is how I use them, I just continually improve them. And every time I do data analysis, I add a little bit more, I tweak it, I maybe even add a whole nother tab, whatever it happens to be. I just keep doing that because it makes more sense to me at the time. And they just keep getting more and more powerful for me. And pretty soon, you show up at the track, and all you find is you're just clicking a couple of buttons to get to where you want to go, and you're analyzing data in a very clean and very fast and efficient way. So think about that, and that's the big reason of why we use these user profiles. I'm gonna jump out here and jump into Race Studio 3. And let's demo a few things. Roger speaking directly to me, Kyle is saying. Yeah, maybe a little bit of Kyle, but it truly from my heart, that's how I use them, and that's how I've taught people to use them for quite some time. And it is the right way to use them. Race Studio 3 analysis, I have a couple little things that I have been very, very fond of inside of Race Studio 3 is you can, for things like this where you have some data files that you want to maybe use a lot. Maybe you had your best lap. Maybe it's a data file of a track that you went to that you want to go back and look at often. Using this favorites function is something that has been very, very powerful for me, not just from this area, because if I go up here and click on my all events like most of us would see, there's just a ton of data here, right? And so when I find a data file that I want, I hit the little favorites button, and then you have recent and favorites down here that we can look at the last 30 recorded, last 30 analyzed, last 30 imported, or the favorites. This little orange star here that we've right-clicked and made them a favorite. So I use these a lot, especially for these things like this. Makes it easy for me to find the test I'm after, and gets rid of all that stuff that might be filling up the screen that doesn't need to draw your attention away from what we're trying to talk about. So this is pretty powerful for me, as I use the favorites tool a lot. So we have these tests here that we're gonna open up one of them. Maybe we'll open up JD's here with us in the live chat. So with let's open up this test. And let's talk a little bit about the profiles. I opened this one, but the profile that I have open and attached right now is Aaron Bike Health. Okay, so the entire profile I've built here that I had active when I last closed down Race Studio 3. Then I reopened it here, and I opened up this Spec Racer 4 data. Well, that's probably not going to do much good for us, right? So one of the things that I want to do is immediately open up go to my list of available profiles and load the one that that I've previously built for this. So to find your profiles, Roger needs a larger AiM data cloud. It's kind of funny you say that, but I also started up a new account to try to clean up everything for our presentations. And so this is just another account that I just started a couple of days ago, set up a couple of days ago. So it doesn't have my normal AiM quota of amount. So yes, I do need a bigger one for this one. So John Barnum, we could look at this, but we want to open up his user profile, or a different profile, let's say. So to get to profiles from the default way that Race Studio 3 is loaded when you first loaded it way back when, and user profiles were added, and maybe they've tweaked this menu item stuff, is under this cogged wheel. If you click on that, you have the profile manager icon. So there's a two-step process to get in here to get to the profile manager, and then boom, now we've got the profile manager, and then you have all of the ones that you've stored. And I've cleaned this up quite a bit. I had a whole bunch of them. I wanted to make sure it was where we could see them all. But there's an SRF Barnum down here that I have created for the family here to and then shared with them. So I'm going to double click on this. You can just double click on it. You see that it kind of went away for a second there, and then it just popped back up. And what just happened is it went out and found that file. It brought it back in, it reloaded everything, and it went through. And in this case, I only have a couple of tabs, but it went to a channels report tab, where this is what was important for whatever task we were doing at the time, where we built a channel report, and it was saved as part of this with a track map. So in this particular case, and then a working tab with some different channels that we were looking at the time, and then of course a track map where we can see exactly where they were at. So this was all saved, and if we wanted to tweak this one, which we will in a moment, but we could go in and adjust it, save it as another one, add some things. We're going to do that, but I wanted to first do the one thing that you don't see those two toolbars, and that let's go over that very thing. A lot of different people have a lot of different look here, depending on how they loaded it, what buttons they played with, what driver coach has gotten in there and maybe adjusted some things, or you called or emailed me and I said, we'll push all these different buttons and make it look the way you want. Let's chat about what to do to make this maybe be a little bit more friendly to you. And I'll go through, I think, 4 different ways of getting your user profile menu items set up in a way that works a little bit better. I'm going to jump back to the presentation now and jump ahead a slide. And this is what, and a pretty busy screen, this is why I went out and talked about it a little bit before I before I started showing you these slides. But these this is what it looks like when Race Studio 3 is first loaded, just like we were seeing in John's data just a second ago. You have to, in order to get to this sub menu, to get to the profiles and some of the other different steps of saving and saving a profile as and some of the other things that we might want to do, we have to go through this cogged wheel icon first. And when you click on that, this menu opens up. And if you wanted to change how the behavior of where those are all at, you click on this last icon down, or this last menu item, analysis window behavior, and this dialog box opens up. And what I've highlighted here is the bottom three are the ones that are really changing things. The top one, I'm going to talk specifically about that one here just before we go away from the PowerPoint presentation. But these bottom three is select where you want the profiles command to be. Right now, it's keeping the profile buttons inside that cogged wheel menu. It's the software is set up where we're telling it to stay inside of here. A lot of people don't like those extra couple of steps that they got to do to get to the user profile icons. So but that's how it's set up. We're going to change these. I'm going to go through several slides here and show you where these are at. If you don't, if you're like me and you need to do hands-on a few times to get that, download this presentation PDF, have this with you, and this is just going to walk you through the steps to get exactly all the different things you might want. So so here we are. Boom. If I leave them like this is what we're going to have. The next thing is, some people like to have their toolbar all across the top, and yet they want their profile information, all of their profiles, their settings for those, the save as, added to the normal profile icons that are here. So if you come down here when you have this analysis window behavior button open, we've left the show profile buttons in the main toolbar, so that's going to pull them out of being behind the cogged wheel and throw those into here by clicking on show profile button to the main toolbar. It was here before, right? The other one is the compact analysis tabs within the toolbar. We can make this little tab jump up one and pull these tabs down and buy a little bit more space for more tabs, but a lot of people like that compact version. And then the other one is select the placement of the profile layouts button in the top toolbar or in the left side of the whole toolbar. But this is the top one. Okay, so if you like it up there and you want your profiles to be buttons right there, this is how you would set it up. And then the third one, which is my preferred settings, is I like that whole toolbar to be down here, down the side. It is fairly small and it doesn't take up a ton of space. Everything is all about saving the space on the laptop when you're at the racetrack, right? We don't always have two 24-inch monitors like we do at our desk, right? But so this is pretty thin, and it gets these icons and these buttons for adding the different tabs that we're going to be adding, and of course all of the user profile things here as well. Matt says he's on team left edge. And everybody else as well. It's funny how I think Matt was the same as this. I don't know about some of the rest of you, but when I first saw that, I play in the beta software quite a bit, and I was looking at it, and I downloaded the beta, and this was available to me, and I put it over there, and I thought it was like a week. I was very, very vocal that I did not like that. That was terrible. We always have a little bit of that, we don't like change, right? But this is horrible. I couldn't stand it. I was even vocal to our dear friend Emiliano, and in other words, but within a week of just tinkering with it, playing with it, leaving it up there, okay, let's just try this out. I'm telling you, I turned around in a hurry, and the left-hand side here has become the absolute go-to for me. And as I've talked with many other people and helped set up their laptops to look like this, their Race Studio 3 to be set up in this way, by doing these three main buttons here at the lower of the two choices. This is what everybody likes, and it is an amazingly good place to put them. And give it a shot if you have, by looking at this documentation that we're giving you here and so you know where to go in and find this little sub menu. You can play with these in the different ways. You can put them all across the top if you want. You can put them, leave them under here so it's a really thin, really lean row of icons. It's not all cluttered with a whole bunch of them. I don't have a problem with having a few more icons up here if they work for me. So by adding them here, or of course down the left side. So there's your information on how to get those set up and get those the way that you want. And as almost everything else, when you put them where you want and you save a profile, that's where those profile icons are going to show up. They're saved as part of the profile. So it's a nice little tight circular way of working with it. So let me see what's the other thing that you can do as you're learning. At first, some people will look at those and I'm not sure what those icons are. Right? What is each one of those? If you hover over them with your mouse, it's not going to do that here in the PowerPoint, obviously, but if you hover over these, they will give you a tooltip and they will say what they are, which will help you. But if you want this large list here, so you can see them real quickly, and you can toggle it off and on real quickly. If you just click this little button right up here at the top icon, this little guy right here, with a single click on that, this opens up and gives you all the words of exactly what each of these icons are. So this little thing here has been, I used it for the first little bit just to make sure I understood what each one of those were. I just toggle it on and I turn it back off, and that has been very, very helpful. So I call this the minimal visible side icon bar and the very visible side icon bar if you leave it open like that. With laptops and smaller screens, obviously this is probably taking up too much space, but you have that option. Okay, so everybody play with that a little bit and get that where you want that. I wanted to go back in, take a little bit of time to help everybody understand how to get this thing set up, and maybe some of you got that halfway where you want it and you see a couple of options, so you might want to think about trying. Give it a shot. Play with these analysis window behavior settings, which is available to you under the cogged wheel here, and play with those a little bit, and I think you're going to find something that works very, very well for you. So okay, let me make sure that yep, there I go. Let's bring Race Studio 3 back up. Okay, I see there's no open questions. I do have some things planned to go through here real quickly, but and probably could fill out the rest of the time. But if you have some other questions, make sure that you throw them up into the question and answer box. Okay, so the biggest next philosophical thing that I want to talk about before we actually start clicking buttons, is user profiles. You can go two different ways with user profiles, and one of them is you can make a user profile that is, this is my Roger user profile, or a car, a single car. Maybe you have 3 cars in the field and they got all different sensors on them and different things. Well, you can say this is the Formula Ford, this is my Spec Miata, and this is my AC Cobra, right? So you have different cars, and you can make a profile, and you can have 12 or 15 tabs across there, and to look at, and we're going to change these. We're going to show live on setting those menus up the way I like them in just a second. So if you didn't see the PowerPoint on how to do it, or you want to watch me do it, I'm going to actually change those in just a second. So back to the philosophical thing, profiles can be, I want one profile with a whole bunch of tabs in it, where one profile it says Spec Miata, and then inside of that you might have a vehicle, 3 or 4 different tabs that are just about vehicle health, a channels report, a health channels report, a health measures graph where you see the actual channels, and then you may also have 3 or 4 tabs that are driver performance tabs, and then you may have 2 or 3 of them that are vehicle performance tabs, right? So you end up with 8 or 10 tabs across the top. That is, I started off pretty much there at first as well, and so that is a thought, and that is, so you'll end up with very few. If I open this up real quickly, you'll end up with only 3 or 4 things here. But when you open up a Roger default, or Roger default no video, so the default one has a video, some video spots for SmartyCam video to be in with it, and then we have one that's no video, and those are kind of ones I use when people send me data. They're just kind of nice little basic user profiles. But you might want to do one where you have a profile that is nothing more than a bike suspension, and then you'll have another one that is bike health and bike and then rider development, something like that, where you end up with, like I built one here with Aaron Bike Health. And we'll visit that in a moment. You built more profiles but less information in each profile. Now, why would you do that? But it's a little bit of half dozen one, six of the other. But the a couple things you got to think about. If you have a bunch of math channels and you have a bunch of tabs and you have maybe endurance car racing where you have 60, 70 laps in a session, so there's a lot of data, a lot of math channels, and a lot of tabs. Race Studio 3, the way it works, when you load that session in or you change that user profile by picking it here, just keep in mind that the way Race Studio 3 works, because it's really the right way to do it, is when you load that, it has to go through every single millisecond of every lap and apply all of this data, this external data. The math is all done when it is loading. So if you have a very, very oversized endurance racing, hundreds of laps or something, right? Or even if it's 25 or 30 laps and you have 60, 70, 80 math channels and you have a user profile that has, 15 tabs, the only downside can be that when you first load it, it may take 5 or 6 seconds to load instead of the normal, 1 or 2 seconds, right? Because the math has to be done in real time that way. Because once you get in here and you start clicking around or you change laps or you do something, we don't want Race Studio 3 to have to be calculating on the fly all this stuff. We want this to work very, very quickly and seamlessly for you. So all that math's all been done ahead of time. So keep that in mind. So that is one way where you have a single user profile with tons of information and tons of different ways of looking at it in one. The other way of looking at that, as I mentioned, is 3 or 4 different profiles that have built that have only 2 or 3 tabs in them. So you have a Spec Miata vehicle health, a Spec Miata driver analysis, and a Spec Miata vehicle analysis, or vehicle health, or whatever it happens to be. But you have a bunch of profiles and make them smaller. Then the loading of that, if you have a newer computer, you can't tell the difference. But if you have like a lot of us do, the laptop keeps, it was hot fast at the time, and then it went to you run it for 2 or 3 years, and then you give it to the kid, and then somebody else, and then pretty soon it ends up as a race car laptop, right? That's what happens with some of us, and you end up with your oldest and slowest laptop is your racing one, and if it's really low powered and older, you have to think about those things. So keep that in mind. That's the only real reason to do it in 2 different ways, but think about how you want to build those in your mind before you jump in and start building them in that way. So let's change the view here, because I see a couple folks are still asking questions about how did we set this up for having the user profile icon show up right here in the top or down the left side. So right now it's set up as default from the Race Studio 3 loads, and this cogged wheel over here in the far left corner, if you click on that, there's a menu comes up. One of them is the profile manager, so you can just go and grab the profile manager like I've been showing you every time so far. Let's exit out of that. The other way is there's down here at the bottom, you have analysis window behavior. If you click on that, you end up with that dialog box that was in the presentation materials. Now we're going to talk about this top one as soon as we talk about these here. The top 3 icons, radio buttons being selected is the default. I happen to like the bottom 3 of these actually to be set, is the way I like it. That's going to put it down the left hand side, and it's going to put it on the left side. It's going to not have an additional, when this leaves, it's going to compact the tabs together here by this one, compact analysis tabs within the toolbar, and it's going to show the profiles buttons in this bar that we're going to put down the left side in that main toolbar. Okay, let's talk about this top one. I'm not a super expert on this yet, but I have found what works for me. And select your preferred profile saving behavior. You have 3 choices of how profiles get saved. And the one that I have settled on is I want a manual save process for me, because I did a couple of things and it was saving sometimes that I didn't know about and not saving at times. So I have defaulted to save the profile only when clicking on the save button. And I've been happy with that. You can also automatically save the profile if modified when you close the analysis window. So you're in here doing some analysis, you're playing around, you're resetting a bunch of things, and when you actually close the analysis window, however you had last set that, the user profile that you had applied, in this case SRF Barnum, will be saved with the settings that you leave it with. Okay, so that's the top one, automatically save it. And then the last one is ask, if modified, to save the profile every time analysis is closed. That's a pretty safe. I tended to like that one at first, but then I just found myself saying yes or all the time or whatever. So, but what I found even more comforting for me is I just like to go over and hit the little floppy disk icon, and I just whenever I make a change, I just go over and click on the little icon. And so I like to save manually, but that's what this option is here for above, is selecting your preferred profile saving behavior. Think about that one. But the middle, this right here is how I have mine always set up, is the middle one in this option, and then the bottom three here. So I'm going to click on this OK button here in a second, and you're going to see this icon toolbar is going to be put down to the left side, and we're going to pull out all of the user profile icons and put it with it, is basically what we're doing here. So I'm going to click on OK. You'll see it's worked around, boom, and there it is. We now have all of the normal, histogram, tabs and XY plots and the track map page and the time measure graph, all of these, and the custom one. We're going to look at one of those here in just a second. And we also have all of the user profile icons up here at the side. So that's the way I like it. And then I mentioned, remember, we talked about this big compact or enlarge this toolbar. If I click on that, we now can see what all of those are. It just shifted everything over, compressed the rest of these three, and then turn that back off when you don't need the actual words there. So think about that. And but this is the way I like it, and that's we're going to leave that way for the rest of this chat. Okay. The next thing is maybe John here has this, and he says, well, you know what? I don't really need the fuel pressure, P1 pressure here on this screen. Maybe it's the throttle position he doesn't want. Let's take fuel pressure out of this. So if we come up here and we go to the fuel pressure and we want to remove that channel, I just removed that channel. It's gone out of here. Okay. I would normally just come right over and save that, but a couple other little things that are maybe a little bit new with the with Race Studio 3 is we have this option of see the y-axis values have been turned up, in this vertical direction, and it's really all about saving space, because if we rotate those down and come across here, we're going to take a little bit more space. Laptops have small screens when you're out there. You don't have the option of having large screens or dual monitors like you may at home. So this is kind of the default way of looking at it. But if we come in here and we go to settings, I just right-clicked in this area. Everything, a lot of context menu, right-click stuff happening in Race Studio 3 now. Settings, and let's the direction of the labels on the y-axis. Instead of vertical, which they are right now by default, turn them to horizontal. See how that's kind of the more normal way of, we've always seen it in Race Studio 3. Some people I have found just love those in the other direction, not just for the space, but that works for the way that their mind works and their eyes. So do that if you wish. The other thing that by default is off and on is having labels inside of that y-axis. Let's show the labels. The speed, RPM, throttle position. It tells you what that channel is. Personally, I always leave my channel tags on, so I always have my GPS speed readout is right here wherever it's crossing here. I know that this is GPS speed already, and I know it's in miles per hour because it says that, and I'd rather have the numbers there. So I'm going to go back into settings one more time, and I'm going to on those labels on the y-axis, Y to the sky is how I always remember it, is I'm going to hide those labels. Okay, so personal preferences, you do what works for you. That's what's so cool about the software. There's lots of stuff for you to do there. So that's the way I kind of like it. And another thing on user profiles, all of this stuff that we're looking at is they're panels, right? So we can make these bigger, we can make them larger by just dragging, going to the bar that's in the middle and then dragging and making them the right size that you wish. Maybe we want to add the the bar across the bottom here where we can select different laps. If we right click in here, we can lay out a panel. We can add a panel to the bottom. There we've just added the panel, space for the panel. Now we have to choose it. And we can go down here and it's and go to the storyboard is what we call that. And click on OK. There's the storyboard. And now of course it's way too big, so we've sized that down to here. Maybe we want to turn off and have not every channel show up down in there. I know I'm going a little fast, but you can play back the video a little bit later. All little tweaks we're making to make this thing work for you as a user that you want to save in your profile. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to the settings for the storyboard. Open panel settings window, or display channels is actually even a more shortcut to get to it. Is I want to use the channels common with the other panels, which is the channels that are open, or I want to allow different channels in this panel that I'm talking about versus the other panels. I'm going to do that. Now I show no channels down there, and the way that you add channels down there into this storyboard down here is what channel do we almost always like to see down there is maybe the speed trace, just so we can see what channels are available down there and make sure you see continuity of every lap that's broken into there. We can see that the speed trace went virtually the same all the time. If you come up and right click on any of these channels, but we're going to do speed, and you say I want to see it in the storyboard, right? Show in the storyboard. Boom, there, now you have it down in the storyboard. So we took a channel away, we added the storyboard because we're at the track and this was important to us, and we're fine-tuning these cool little things, and we've kind of got it where we want it to be, right? We kind of like it. It's in distance measure units here. We've got the right. We've had the ability here to put the channels where we want them. We like where they're all at. We've adjusted the y-axis, scaling and took the channel names off. We're happy with it. All we got to do is come over here and click on the little, pardon me, click on the little floppy disk over here, the old school floppy disk looking thing. Save the profile. This profile called SRF Barnum has now been saved with that on there. Let's show you how well this works by jumping in and saying let's load a different profile. Let's go to Roger default, let's say. Just load that profile by double clicking on it. The software is looking at it, thinking of it, breaking it all into the profile tabs that I had set up before, a bunch of them, so it had a little bit extra work to do. And boom, now we've got that same session, that same data file we've been looking at is now just been a different user profile. It is waiting for a video up here. I did have it at default, but I had that one on there. Let's go ahead and remove that panel. Let's lay out the panels. Let's remove that video panel. Shouldn't be in there. And then let's kind of resize this over just a little bit, maybe. Okay, boom. Resize the mile per hour. Okay, so there, I kind of like that a little bit better. Let's save that one, and then we're going to jump right back into the, let's save that one. Now let's go right back into the Barnum profile that we had a minute ago, and you'll see that all those changes we did, SRF Barnum, and we're going to double click on that, add that one in, and you'll see that all that stuff that we did just a moment ago and then kept on saving things is exactly how it just came back to us. Okay, so these user profiles, continue to tweak them, continue to build them, adjust them, and by having these icons available to you here, very, very easy to save them. Okay, and when you're in, let's say that you have a buddy, user profiles, and you somebody else has a Spec Racer Ford that runs with John down there, and he looks over your computer and goes, boy, I like the way you have that set up. I'd love to have that set up on my computer. you can just come into SRF Barnum and you can highlight it, and you have the option of exporting that profile out to your hard drive, and then the other person, you would then hand that file to them on a thumb drive, whatever, and then you would come, he would have that ready on his end, and he would import that file in, and it would just be SRF Barnum in his list. He would double click on it, and his Spec Racer Ford data would be available to him in this exact same look and feel. So the not only can you build them, you can save them, you adjust them, but you can share them as well, which is an important thing. So keep that in mind. The let's jump out of this one and let's jump into a different piece of. Let's close that test. Let's grab Aaron's data real quickly just to show you the power of some of the stuff that I've done a little bit earlier. So we're now looking at that with SRF Barnum as the user profile, right? But now it's Aaron's bike, and we have a profile set up for that. So boom, we would immediately come up here, and we would go to pardon me, I've got a little bit of a cough in there. We've got a bike suspension, we've got a Aaron bike health. So let's just jump on we want to look at just his health. Remember, we had that discussion of, do we make one profile with a whole bunch of stuff, or do we make eventually, if I was Aaron and this was the data, I would have Aaron bike health, I would have Aaron rider performance, I would have bike performance, I would have 4 or 5 profiles that I would just quickly come in and change. I've only got one right now, but I'm going to double click on that one. It loads it up real quickly, does all that math stuff we've been talking about. In this case, he's only got 3 tabs, and you can now go in here. It's all set up under the time distance tab. He's got a video that's here. It's since this is a health one, he's got all of his channels that have something to do with the bike's health. He's got voltage of the battery, the alternator output, engine RPM, engine temperatures, ignition advance, inlet temperatures, and throttle position. Whatever you wish to add, you can add up real quickly from the list and find all the different things you might want to add in your list and add them in here directly. I like to, whenever I have a profile that's just vehicle health, I like to see it in 2 different ways. Some people just have a channel here that is just the channel report. All they have is this when they have it all, and they just set this up where they have the GPS speeds, kind of just almost a typical thing we have in all channel reports. What was my maximum speed, my minimum speed? That just gives you an idea if the lap was a true full hard lap, based on lap time and your min and max speeds. Okay, then you can go look at the external voltage, look at your maximum engine speed, see if there's any over revs. Was there any overheats? Was there any inlet temperatures where something got plugged? You can see when were you drafting. You can see that it started off at 85 degrees on the first lap and quickly dropped down, getting cooler as it was going because fresh air was coming into the bike. Same thing with the water temperature. Started off warmer as the bike was warmed up on pre-grid. As soon as he got out there and rolling out along the track, getting air through the radiator, it came down a little bit and then started to come up just a tick. When you find you're drafting somebody, the inlet temperatures you'll shoot up, and the same thing with the engine temperatures will come up with, especially in a car when you're blocking a lot of air getting to your radiator. So I like to have it where I can see squiggly lines on the health information and pardon me, and a channel report on the same exact information. I saw a question up there. Take a sip of water. I saw something up there that talked about scratch. I have just gotten it into a habit that I do, because sometimes you come into these user profiles and you don't want to really get in here and do a bunch of monkeying around. You have it open, and something in the top of your mind comes up and says, I wonder what the lateral G's were in that corner. Well, you can kind of add it here and then take it and then not save it on your way out, and it reverts back to this, right? Or I always have a scratch or a working tab, or call it whatever you wish, but for me, I just always call it scratch. And it's a tab that I don't care what I do inside this tab. It is just sitting here waiting for me to add channels to, take channels away, Doesn't matter, where I can just come in here and answer some questions real quick without having to have a whole nother profile set up. So all of my profiles have a like a little worksheet area where I can go in and just turn channels on and off, and it just doesn't matter to me, right? So consider doing that for yourself when you have maybe a user profile that may only have two. Add that third one, just something where you can just go in there and just have a place for you to play in the data, right? It's not a real well-defined user profile tab. Uh, so that's why I have that. I seen somebody ask that question, so I wanted to cover that, why I have that. Okay. So there's there's just a little bit more to that. The um, let's see, no open questions, so perfect. We're getting pretty close to where I wanted to end it. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention and ask you guys for your opinion, or let you know that it's there available for you before we kind of close this one out. In here in 2025, the SCCA, the runoffs are going to be held at Road America again, and they made a change in the alternate start finish line. Something they've been doing the last couple years is having an alternate start finish line. So when you can get a lap time in qualifying and then come right into the pits and not have to do a complete lap. The track is so long, obviously, right? And they did it at VIR a couple years before that. I wanted to go in and show you that just in the last day or so, the alternate start finish line, which was over here before the just before the kink, or just after the kink, the last year, I think the year before that, or whenever, last 2 years, I think. Well, they've changed where the location of that is, and for those of you that want to maybe get ahead of the game on your lap split, track map splits, and all the stuff that you'll be doing with the track, all of practice and qualifying. Sessions will be using a start finish line here at between 13 and 14. And then as soon as you cross that, you have the ability to come right into off the track if you had a good lap, or continue on for another one if you deem necessary. So we have an alternate track there that's available for you now in Race Studio 3. You have to be connected, PC connected to the internet, Race Studio 3 open, where then it will show a little red dot here showing that there's been updated tracks. You just have to click on that, and you'll have a little message that'll be right in this area that says, do you want us to update your database? And you're going to say yes. Then you'll have the new track for Road America, the alternate track. The reason to tie this all together with user profiles, this is going to be very helpful to those of you who want to build track map segments, segment reports, all the different things you may want to do with your setting up of your user profiles before you ever go to the track. And it's my understanding that all of the divisional races, majors races, and Hoosier Super Tours leading up to the runoffs the rest of the year, that the alternate start finish line is going to be used by the SCCA racers. So you're going to have that available to you now. Right now, you could have data that you've had from 5 years ago. You can apply this track map to it in Race Studio 3. Have the start finish line be here, so you can do all of your set up some user profiles just for the alternate start finish line. If you do channel splits and different things, you'll be able to set those up with that and do a lot of preparation work before you get there. So keep that in mind and know that that's available for you, and that you can do a little preparation work if you're going to run Road America between now and the runoffs, and including the runoffs. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to go over that real quickly with you guys. Pardon me again. Perfect. I think I got all the notes that I had down here that I wanted to do. I don't. Well, somebody says that timing line used to be apex of. Had to go. We went through that a little bit, since it's here and we can see it pretty quickly. There's a large sign bridge here above the track. There's a couple of line work, and then the buried loop is right here. Just a little bit after 13 and into 14. There was a loop back here quite some time ago, but I'm not sure they redid that one when they paved and they did everything there. That was kind of interesting. And then, of course, the one before was back here, right here by the flag station in the middle of the back track. Those of you that haven't been to Road America in a while, in the fun of having Google Earth imagery in our tracks, look at that new changing that from a pedestrian only crossover bridge. Look at the amount of work that was being done. I think this was about 5 or 6 months ago, this image. If you go to Google Earth proper, you'll see the date when this was taken. But yeah, they're making that a full on drive over bridge for cars and everything. And look at the amount of dirt work and everything else that they're doing there, concrete retaining walls and all of that. So when next time you go to Road America, if you haven't been there in a while, you're going to see some fairly large changes. So perfect. I hope you enjoyed that. We did go just a couple minutes long, but I hope you got something out of that. Let me bail out of this and get back into the presentation. If you want more details on the stuff that I showed, make sure you download this presentation, the PDF, and basically we're walking through all these exact same steps to get how you want it to be, right? So keep that in mind. As we kind of close this one up, in just a few moments, we'll put this video up on our YouTube site. If you haven't been there in a while, make sure you go there, subscribe, and click on the little bell to get notifications whenever we put videos up there. You will get a message that we've added those. So and it helps us too get more people to look at these. We have a whole bunch of videos up there. This will just be the latest one, all about user profiles. So go ahead and take a look there. If you like it, customer service, we're out there. Boy, I look at our schedule. I have people call and ask me, "Hey, do you have somebody at this track and this track?" And I open up our little internal schedule, and our folks are out there working as hard as they can. They can't be everywhere, right? So keep that in mind, and we try to make all of the larger events, and of course we always have cell phones and emails and the rest to help you out as much as we can. Just let us know what we can do for you. 800 number that certainly works during the week. Most of you have everybody's cell numbers if you've been at the track much and chatted with our support folks. So keep that in mind as well. The next webinar to be announced on who we're going to have joining us, but it will be Tuesday, May 13th, the second Tuesday of the month. We always do the one in the evening. And the last Tuesday of the month is when we do this one, which is we do late in the morning on the Pacific and early afternoon on the West Coast. So so we'll have that webinar be a little bit more announced here shortly, hopefully. And but make sure you come back and join us for our next one, which is May 13th. Those of you that are here are watching. If you register, if you're watching this on YouTube later, there is a register link down in the description. You'll just get an email 24 hours before, and then 1 hour before is the only emails you get from us on that. So. Contact information. I didn't have to jump in and ask Emiliano too much, so but I did leave his contact information here and as well as mine. If you have some questions about user profiles or anything else, make sure you give me a call on my email, roger@aimsports.com. Happy to help out and answer any of these things. So I do a ton of TeamViewer. I use Zoom most of the time, but the users sometimes have preferences, so they'll set some things up. But I do a ton of online video type meetings as well, either directly to the racetrack or with the racers in their shops to help get everything kind of going. Once you get the first little bit worked out and you understand how things are kind of working, then your AiM, your hardware and software works exactly how you like, and you get a long, happy life with it. So let us help you get everything up to speed, and then and make sure you're getting what you need out of it. So give us a holler, roger@aimsports.com, if you want to contact me directly. If you want to have any questions about the software and enhancements you may want or bugs that you might find, software at AiM Sportline, sport-sportline, aim-sportline.com is how you send the data into Emiliano and his team to get some changes that way. So if you need that, make sure you give us a holler. I thank everybody for coming. It's hopefully we got through some stuff and you learned some things about user profiles. Since I was doing all the talking and manipulating of all the buttons and all that stuff, I didn't get a chance to read the chats too much. Hopefully you got something out of it, and if not, make sure you give me some information on future webinar topics you'd like to see. Is always appreciated if you have something that a lot of people or yourself or a lot of other people are struggling with and want some more information on it. these webinars are a perfect time to dig in deeper and take an entire hour and talk about things like that. So make sure you give us some information about, let me know what you'd like to see in the future. It's always helpful to me as well. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. And we're looking forward to seeing you on our next one on May 13th in the evening. So we'll talk to you guys later, and see you later. Bye-bye.